والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Alhamdulillah, mashallah, Brother Ibrahim did a good job on his introduction. I always get scared when somebody does an introduction about me without something written in front of him. Because through experience, I find that many times people, when they forget what they're supposed to say, and they kind of, just start to make things up as they go, and they add a few things here and there. And alhamdulillah, he did everything he said was correct. And the script he got, he stuck to it, mashallah. And even what he said at the end about the chili, he was right about that as well. Even though I myself might like a little chili, but my stomach doesn't agree. So we have to be kind to our bodies as well. Alhamdulillah. And I think the only people who said that the lunch today was spicy was me and Ibrahim, actually. Everybody else, even the other white guy said, it's spicy, isn't it? He said, no, that's fine for me. So it was just me and Ibrahim who felt it was a bit too spicy, alhamdulillah, but it was very good. The one thing that he did mention, as the brother mentioned, it was the title of tonight's lecture. And that is the best of both worlds. The best of both worlds. Is it possible for us as Muslims to have the best of both worlds? Meaning, to be able to benefit and enjoy this life, the dunya that we're living in, and at the same time to be able to be successful in the hereafter. Is it possible or not? And before we say yes or no, inshallah, this is what we're going to go in detail, inshallah, looking at. Just like we said in the khutbah today. We talked about, what was the khutbah about today? Tawheed. And about the importance of Tawheed. So we said if we want to know the importance of anything in Islam, where do we look? Who remembers? We look into the Quran and into the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if it's clearly, the focus is put on that it's important from the Quran and Sunnah, then we know it's important. So here as well, we're going to look in to see, and he might say, yeah, we can be successful, we can enjoy the dunya. And we say, no, you have to leave parts of the dunya if you want to be successful hereafter. And you have to be miserable in this life in order to be successful in hereafter. So what is the truth? Inshallah ta'ala, this is what we're going to find out in tonight's lecture. Before we start to look into this, there's two very important principles that we have to understand. Qawaid. We have to understand these principles. And that is, first of all, that everything that Allah or His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam calls us to do or tells us to stay away from, that there's good in it for us. Pay attention, akhwan. Anything that Allah or His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam calls us to do or calls us to stay away from, that there's benefit in it for us. And that's why, if you reflect on the verse in Surah Al-Anfal, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu istajibu lillahi wa lirrasul. Oh, you have believed, respond to Allah and His Messenger. And here, in Arabic language, it's a complete sentence. If Allah had stopped here and just told us to respond to Allah and His Messenger, it's a complete sentence, it makes perfect sense. It's understandable. But look what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said at the end of the verse. إِذَا دَعَاكُمْ لِمَا يُحْيِيكُمْ. If they call you to that which gives you life. That which gives you life. لِمَا يُحْيِيكُمْ. Anything that comes in the Quran, do, don't do, it gives you life. It gives you direction. Anything which comes in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to do it or not to do it, it gives you life. It gives you direction. You're the one who's benefiting from it. Always remember this as a principle. So if you're forbidden as a Muslim, because it's very important when we want to reflect on can we benefit and enjoy this life, that if we're forbidden from something, we have certain restrictions in Islam, that we're the ones benefiting from these restrictions. These restrictions are good for us. They're not harmful for us. They're not actually forbidding us because they're protecting us from that which is harmful. And if you want to look, we could change the topic tonight and open up the floor right now and say, bring things from the haram things in the society that we live in that we're not allowed to do, and we can sit here and mention the benefits that we gain from them. The fact that we're not allowed to drink alcohol. The fact that we're not allowed to have pre-marital relations for the shabab, for the youth who haven't got married yet. We know these things. And we know the harms that come from these things and the benefits which comes from refraining from them. Endless. We can count them out, alhamdulillah. So anything that Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam call us to do or call us to stay away from, that there's benefit in it for us, and we're the ones who are benefiting. The second principle that we need to focus on is when it comes to following rules. Because in the time that we live in now, the people are they're drifting farther and farther away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they say, I'm free. There's freedom, huh? After Mel Gibson's movie, it became like even more so, huh? I mean, I guess for you guys up here in North, you guys are close to the border too, huh? Everybody felt it. Freedom, freedom, huh? And everybody's talking about free, I do what I want to do, nobody can tell me what to do. This is very famous, that's spread throughout the world now. Is there anything, it's not up to me, it won't go to the thing. It goes back to the one in charge of the microphone. That's as far as it goes from that side. So that's why I said from the beginning, I thought it was too far. So what we missed from the first principle, by the way, sisters, inshallah, we'll say something now, inshallah. Okay, so I'm not going to rewind what I just said. Okay? That's the first thing. And this happened to me one time. I was filming for a TV show for Peace TV, and they had different TV shows that we would do. We went there in Mumbai. So the first one, by the way, when they sent my ticket to Mumbai, I said, "Where's that? I never heard of it before. I know Bombay." Huh? So I had to go online and look, where's Mumbai? Where's the city of Mumbai? I didn't realize that the name had changed at that time. Huh? So 2009, we go to India. Once again, the spicy food was an issue. Put me in the hospital, basically. And Dr. Zakir came to me and said, "But brother, this was mild food." I said, "It was mild for you, bro, not for me." not at all. So I'm giving a lecture. Because we had some we filmed in the studio, and some we did like 2 live lectures. And during the live lecture, they would cut it into segments. So it would be like 4 with the Q&A, like 4 or 5 different TV shows. It would become this live lecture. MashaAllah, in India, MashaAllah, you have like 100,000 people in front of you for one lecture. So I'm giving this lecture, and the lecture before I've been sick with my stomach, and now this one's like it's very hot during the lecture, and I'm sweating, and the guy's coming, what you don't see behind the screens, they always put up the signs, and he's like, wipe. I'm like, I can't stop sweating. It's like just sweat, and it's really hot. So at the end, I can't really handle it anymore. So I have my blazer on, my jacket, and I have my thobe underneath. So I take the blazer and I go to the back, in the middle of the lecture. I throw it on the chair, and I come back and I continue to speak. So a few seconds later, you hear the poof, the AC opens. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm a white guy in the middle of India in the summertime. It's hot, and they have no AC on. Now they turn the AC on, and I said, Bismillah. From the beginning, it should have been, I probably all read at the same time as well. So then as we're in the middle of the lecture, the director, the film director, who comes and he gets up on the stage and he kind of time out, which I didn't know existed in lectures until that time. So he calls a timeout. He gets on the stage and he says, "Brother, you need to go back." It was like 10 minutes ago, right? When I took off the jacket. He said, "I need you to go back to where you were, where you stopped when you took off the jacket, and continue from there. And put the jacket back on because it's going to mess up the filming." I said, "We should have thought about that before you turn off the AC." I said, "I have no clue where I was or what I said 10 minutes ago. All I have in front of me is a few notes, and after that, Bismillah, whatever Allah opens up in front of me." So I said, "I don't know what I said 10 minutes ago. I don't know where I was 10 minutes." He said, "It's going to ruin the film." I said, "And it's going to be on you for not turning on the AC, not on me." But somehow they fixed it. I don't know how they did it, but they were able to benefit from it. Alhamdulillah. So the point from the story is that from the beginning, when I saw the microphone there, I said, "It's going to be too far from my face." I asked the brothers, "Is it close enough?" They said, "It's close enough." It wasn't close enough, sisters. So it wasn't my fault. That's the first thing. The second thing, now it becomes on your husband or your brother or your sister or your brothers or whoever is here, your sons, that they repeat to you the first principle that we mentioned, inshallah ta'ala, because it was the brother's fault that you didn't hear it. So they'll repeat to you, and you'll see if they were paying attention, or if they're on their phones, or they're not paying attention, or they're with us but not with us at the same time, we don't know. So the first principle, inshallah ta'ala, the brothers will repeat to the sisters when they go home, inshallah ta'ala. The second principle, when it comes to following rules, we say that people, we hear nowadays, "I want to be free. I have my own right, I want freedom like it's complete freedom." Is there such thing as complete freedom? You can do whatever you want in this world? Let's say now, for example, I've come to the UK, and I say that the Brits, they have it all wrong, which they do, by the way, when it comes to driving. They drive on the wrong side of the road. And the proof is right there. You can see on Google how many other countries drive on the wrong side of the road with you. So you see that obviously the Americans, they're on the hop in this one. Other issues, zebra, other issues that we have, century with the E at the end, or center properly as we say it, or we write it. Allah A'lam, this is a masala khilafiyya, a difference of opinion. We can say this one is right, that one is right. But driving on the right side of the road, this is correct. This is the manhaj al-haq, inshallah. But let's say I'll come to the UK, I said, you know what, I'm going to implement this here. I'm free, I can do what I want to do. I'm going to drive on the right side of the road. What's going to happen? Crash, or I'm going to go to jail. One of the two. They're going to stop me and pull me over. I'm going to be in trouble and go to jail. So there's no such thing. The point, there's no such thing as 100% freedom where you can do whatever you want in life. There's always rules and regulations you have to follow. We see this in the society that we live in. So when we're following the rules and regulations of who? Of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Islam. Who knows better what is good for us and what is bad for us? There's another principle we have to realize, that there's no such thing as 100% freedom. And that when we as Muslims are following the rules and regulations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is an honor for us. We're proud to follow the rules and regulations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now we have a question. And that is, does Islam forbid us from enjoying the finer things in life? To be able to enjoy the dunya, to enjoy life and have fun. Does Islam forbid us or not? What do you guys think? We have about, mashallah, a big crowd. One person said no. No one else said anything. So is this, they're half-half, borderline? Maybe, maybe not. Once again, if we want to determine this, where do we have to look? Into the Quran, into the Sunnah. When you look into the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Qasas, وَابْتَغِي فِي مَا آتَاكُ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةِ, and seek where Allah has given you the home of the hereafter, the Dar al-Akhirah. وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا, and don't forget your portion of this dunya, of this life. So the first command is what? To take advantage from what Allah has given you for the Dar al-Akhirah. And then the second thing is, don't forget your portion of this life, of this dunya. What is the meaning of this ayat? There's two different tafsirs that the scholars of tafsir mention. The first is, take advantage of the time that Allah has given you in order to prepare yourself for the hereafter by doing good deeds, staying away from what you're supposed to stay away from. And this is the jumhur, the majority of mufassirin, they gave this tafsir. Other scholars said, no, what's meant by this is, don't forget your portion of the dunya, meaning enjoy life. Enjoy the things that you have in the dunya. Enjoy the finer things in life. Sheikh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that both of these tafsirs are correct. The true believer takes advantage of the time he has to plant and to build for the hereafter, to prepare for the hereafter. But at the same time, if you have, Allah has given you from the dunya, we can benefit and we can enjoy these things. And we know this from the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. One of the Sahaba was sitting with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he mentioned the hadith, لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. And the hadith was narrated in Sahih Muslim, that the person who has an atom's weight of kibr, of pride or arrogance in his heart, that he will not enter into the Jannah. An atom's weight of pride or arrogance, that he will not enter into the Jannah. One of the Sahaba who was sitting there was someone who liked to look good. Like some of our brothers who are into dressing up, making sure he has nice shoes and nice clothes. Also the Sahaba, there was from the Sahaba who like this as well. So one of the Sahaba, he asked him, he said, Ya Rasulullah, he said, الرجل يحب أن يكون ثوبه حسنا ونعله حسنا. He said that a person likes to have nice thobe, and like nice clothes, and he likes to have nice shoes. How many of us maybe fall into this category? We like to have some nice shoes, designer shoes. Doesn't have to be Gucci or something. It can be something in the middle, some nice shoes. Or it's not cheap shoes, but it's a nice shoes. Has some nice clothes, looks good, nice perfume, smells good. So if we're like this, do we fall into this category? We have some arrogance because we like to look good and dress good. What was the response of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ جَمِيلٌ يُحِبُّ الْجَمَالِ. That indeed Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. And then he explained to him what the arrogance he was talking about was. He said it's بَطْرُ الْحَقِّ وَغَمْطُ النَّاسِ. That it's rejecting the truth and ridiculing. They're looking down upon people, belittling people. This is what's meant by this type of arrogance in the hadith. But if you want to look good, you want to dress good, Allah is beautiful, He loves beauty. And another hadith, which was narrated by Imam al-Tirmidhi, that the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ أَنْ يَرَى أَثَرَ نِعْمَتِهِ عَلَى عَبْدِهِ. That Allah loves to see the bounties that He's bestowed upon His slave upon him. Meaning that if you look good, if you have money, Allah's giving you money, you're supposed to look good. If Allah's blessed you with money, you shouldn't smell bad. Because you have the opportunity to take showers, have nice ether and stuff like that. So why do you stink? Even the Prophet ﷺ, he was very keen on always smelling good, alayhi salatu wasalam. That's why the Muslims should always smell good. Always implement the sunnah of itr. The Prophet ﷺ used to love the itr, the fragrances, and want to smell good, alayhi salatu wasalam, different perfumes. There's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean somebody who's proud because somebody, he has an itr, that means he's somebody who's arrogant. We want to look good, we want to smell good. This is how Muslims should be. And if you have money, in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, you should see it. Doesn't mean you have to be extravagant. But if a brother who is, mashallah, Allah opened up for him in the business, and he has a lot of money, and then after the lecture, he's like, bro, can you guys help me push my car? Because it doesn't start, you know? And every time he stops his car, he has to get a group of brothers to push the car with him to start. And say, go buy a new car, bismillah. Allah is giving you all this wealth. Take 5,000 pounds, get something. It doesn't have to be something, 5,000 pounds, this is going to start for you next time you do it, right? You shouldn't be in the situation where you're struggling and if Allah has given you blessings. So this is what Islam is teaching us. When you look, about ask another question. What now if someone were to come, one of the brothers, mashallah, he's hearing this lecture and he's inspired, but he said, you know what? I'm going to give some as sadaqah, but with some of the money I have, I want to help out some of the brothers. I want them to live a better life in this dunya as well, to be able to benefit from the happiness in this life and inshallah in the hereafter. So he picks some of the brothers, and you're one of them. He comes up to you and he's like, yeah, you know what? I love you for the sake of Allah, and I'm going to give you £1 million. Don't tell everybody else, because then everybody else will be at his door the next day, right? He said, I'm going to give you £1 million for you. You can focus on benefiting from it, for you and your family. If you were that person that received that £1 million, what would you do with it? Let's be honest here. What would you do with it? Somebody gave you £1 million, tax-free, huh? £1 million, huh? What are you going to do with it?
Buy a house.
That's it. First thing, I want to buy a house. And I'm with you on that one. So buy the house. No more rent. No dodgy mortgages. Interest involved. Alhamdulillah. House for ourselves and for the kids. What else?
Make a business.
Make a business. Very good. What else new we're going to buy? Let's buy some more things. Come on.
Car.
A new car. We got a house. We got a car. New wife. I'm in front of the camera. Everyone. You're not in front of you guys in the back. They can't see you. But be careful, because a lot of times when we talk about this hadith that we're about to mention, this topic, the sisters also say new husband. Yeah? But the difference is here, you were thinking about doubling up. She's thinking about, trading in, exchanging. Be careful, huh? Be careful what you wish for. Huh? So these are the main things that people will do. Other people, we might give a percentage for sadaqah, alhamdulillah, depending on the level of our iman. But no doubt, this is what almost all of us will do the same thing with their money. SubhanAllah, when you look into the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which Imam al-Hakim narrated, that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, أربع من السعادة. أربع من السعادة. 4 things bring happiness. And he said from them, the first thing, المرأة الصالحة, the pious wife. Alhamdulillah. And if you have a pious wife, as it came in another hadith, it's the best ni'mah, the best blessing of this dunya, of this life, is to have the pious wife. So if you have a pious wife, go home and kiss her on her head tonight and thank her and make dua for her, inshallah ta'ala. The pious wife, that's number 1 he mentioned, alayhi salatu wasalam. Then he mentioned al-maskan al-wasi'. What is a maskan al-wasi'? A maskan is the house that you live in. But what does it mean, wasi'? Spacious. A spacious house. But you have a big house. So once again, if you have money, it doesn't have to be extravagant, but if you're a billionaire or a millionaire, you don't have to live in a 2-bedroom. Alhamdulillah. You can have a bit more, alhamdulillah. You can have, a detached house, something that's nice. So having something that's spacious house. The third thing he mentioned, al-jar al-salih. To have what? A good neighbor. And you live in a good area, a good neighborhood. And have good people around you. And the fourth thing, al-markab al-hani, which is the good ride. You have a nice car, it's okay, bismillah. It's all right to have a nice car in Islam. You have a nice car, this is from the things that bring happiness. So we had, obviously, the markab al-hani back then would be a nice hisan, a nice horse, or a nice camel, something like that. For us, it's the Beamers, the Benz, something like that, whatever type of car you like, whatever tickles your fancy, as you say, on the side of the sea. So whatever you like, the car that you like, as long as it's not too extravagant, it's not something that makes you be attached to it. You have a nice car to get you from point A to point B. There's nothing wrong with that. And he mentioned that four things, أربع من الشقاء, four things that bring unhappiness. And he said the first one is to have a bad or an evil wife. SubhanAllah. It's one of the horrible things that you can have. And obviously it's the same thing. Don't say because just in the hadith it says al-mar'ah. It says the woman also, it's for you as well. If she has a bad husband, also it's for the four things that bring unhappiness as well. And then the bad neighbor, the bad ride, and then the small or the tight house. All of these things make people unhappy. So this, once again, you see that the things that we would want from the dunya, the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions them in the hadith, that these are the things that bring happiness. So it's okay if we have these things, but we benefit from them as well to focus on the hereafter. One of the things, subhanAllah, the scholars mention, one of the things that made Imam al-Bukhari successful in his quest to seek knowledge, and then later to gather the hadith that we know we have now Sahih al-Bukhari, was the fact that his family was well off and they helped him. I mean, he didn't need to think about the issue of the dunya. And one of the biggest problems that we have now today, where we're not successful as an ummah, is our du'at. And not like when you go to the Christians or to the Jews or other religions who take care of their sheikhs and their scholars. You'll find now that as Muslims, we want our scholars to live as astaghfirullah, sometimes as rats. They don't need to get paid. They say Bismillah and Barakah, we'll give them. That's what they get. But we don't take care of our scholars and of our du'at. So they're busy with other things and they can't focus. But here, when someone has these things, he knows he has a decent place to live, his family's taken care of, then he's going to have focus, and he's going to be more successful. And it's the same as we have in the story of Imam al-Bukhari. So if we have these things, where a person has these things, he helps him relax and to focus on preparing, as you mentioned in the first ayah, preparing on the hereafter, because he has more focus. And then you can imagine like what's happening to some of our brothers and sisters around the world who are going through the difficulties that they're facing in Syria and Burma and these places. And it's sahih, and it helps you get closer to Allah in a way, but also and look at the distractions and the blessings that we're in. We need to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this, the blessings that we have, because it should help us actually focus more, because we're free just to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we see the khair and the blessings that we have, we should be thankful for it, and to encourage us in our worship and preparing to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter. So even if you look into the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you see the balance between the affairs of the deen and the affairs of the dunya. From the dua that he used to make alayhi salatu wa salam, Allahumma aghfir li dhanbi, wa wasi' li fi dari, wa barik li fi ma razaqtani. He said, oh Allah, forgive me of my sin. Forgive me for my sin. And wasi' li fi dari, may make my house spacious. وَبَارِكْ لِي فِي مَا رَزَقْتَنِي, and put barakah, blessings in the provision that you gave me. So the Prophet ﷺ in his dua, he's making dua for what? Deen or dunya? But for both of them. Both of them, deen and dunya. And another hadith, a famous dua, which was narrated in Sahih Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ used to say in his dua, Allahumma aslih li dini, alladhi huwa ismatu amri, waslih li dunyaya, allati fiha ma'ashi. Oh Allah, set right for me the affairs of my religion, which is a safeguard of my affairs. And set right for me the affairs of this world where I am living. Once again, deen and dunya. And the dua. The famous dua that all of us know. The only dua that we say when we make tawaf during Hajj and Umrah, other than Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, that's when you start at the Hajj al-Aswad. When you go around, what is the one, you can say any dua you want as you're making tawaf. But the one dua that was confirmed in the Sunnah, what is it? ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. The ayah from Surah Al-Baqarah. Oh Allah, give us in the dunya good, and in the hereafter good, and protect us from the punishment of the hellfire. Once again, making dua for the best of the deen and the dunya. This is the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is the dua Allah commanded us to say in the Quran. طيب, so we know now that Islam doesn't forbid us, alhamdulillah. Does it restrict us, Islam? Or are we restricted? Because we're not forbidden, but are we restricted from doing things? A bit of a difference. There's a lot of restrictions in Islam. Is there restrictions in Islam? Yes, there's restrictions. But what's more, the restrictions or not being restricted? I'm going to give you two examples. Once again from the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ. Allah made halal for us what? Al-bay', business transactions, to buying and selling. And then Allah said, وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. And He made riba, the interest, the usury, made it haram. So here's an exception to the rule. The scholar said this means that the asl, the origin, when it comes to buying and selling, is that it's halal. Unless there's an exception to the rule. Certain things are haram. Another example, when it comes to food. What is the origin when it comes to food? Halal or haram? Also, it's halal. All food is halal except some things where there's been an exception to the rule. And we know what's the exceptions, alhamdulillah. But the majority of, even in a non-Muslim country, when we go to one of the major supermarkets, the majority of the food is what? Halal and haram. Most of it's halal. You have the exception, certain sections which you don't go into, and other things which haram, and all of us know this. And some of the things you might find a few ingredients here and there, but once you learn what those are, the origin is that most of the food is halal. So the restrictions you see are actually not that much. But once again, when it comes to these type of restrictions, we go back to the first principle, which you guys have to tell your wife when you go home, huh? Because you messed up the microphone, huh? What is the first principle? Who can tell me? Because we have restrictions now. We have to remember these principles.
There's benefit in it.
There's benefit in it. Even if we're restricted, there's benefit in it. We're benefiting from it. We're the ones who are benefiting. And I'm going to give you an example when it comes to buying and selling. Let's say now, for example, Brother Ibrahim, he's one of the guys who got £1 million tonight, mashallah, one of your brothers. And I'm always hoping that this guy exists. Every time I give this lecture, I say maybe he'll come to me at the end, inshallah, as well. Take care, inshallah, Sheikh. Focus on the dawah. Bismillah, alhamdulillah. £1 million, bismillah, Allah barak. So now, Ibrahim, mashallah, he was one of the lucky ones tonight who received £1 million from one of his brothers to help him focus on the deen and the dunya. Ibrahim, he said, I'm going to invest. I'm going to open a halal supermarket, which we buy and sell for 24 hours a day, 24/7. And I'm going to hire all Muslim staff, so I give jobs to my brothers as well. So help out the community at the same time. Is it permissible for him to have a 24/7 halal supermarket? 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
By law, no.
By law, no. Okay, let's say the law allows us. To make it easy for us. I don't know the laws in the UK. We don't want to break any laws with that. Okay, let's say in another place where it's allowed.
Yeah, it's allowed.
Islamically, it's allowed. Anybody say it's not allowed? I'm going to change that one. One brother got it. It's allowed 24/7, 6 days a week, except for one day. We have an exception of about 30 minutes, which is Jumu'ah time. So if I own a business, and especially if all my employees are Muslim at the same time, I'm not going to say I can take one for the team. Now this time, we're going to close the store. Out for lunch, whatever it might be, out for prayer, be back at this time. So we leave for maybe coming back and forth, 45 minutes, 30 minutes for the salat. So we leave selling and buying at this time. Why? Because Allah told us clearly in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, Surah Al-Jumu'ah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع. Oh, you have believed, if the prayer is called, the call for the prayer is made on Friday, then go to the remembrance of Allah and leave trade. وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعَ, and leave the trade. Here it becomes haram. Even now, if I'm selling in front of the masjid, I'm selling hats or perfumes or whatever it might be. A brother comes to me and says, how much is it? I said, this is 10 pounds. He's like, yeah, let me get it for 8, and we're negotiating. I said, okay, I'll give it to you for 11. Bismillah. And we're negotiating, and then we hear the call for the adhan. What happens now? I said, you know what? Bismillah. It's time to close down camp, and it's time to go and pray, because now I'm not allowed to sell. After the salat, I'll sell it to you for 12, inshallah ta'ala. Should have took it for 10 before they called the prayer. They lost the chance. Huh? Bismillah. So here we say that this time it's not permissible for me, what? To sell at this time. But look at the wisdom, subhanAllah. And when you reflect on the Quran, many times we take the ruling and we don't focus on other things that are in the ayah where it comes after it. Look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this verse. We had to leave the selling now, right? Allah told us, ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرُ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, that this is better for you, only if you know. Going back again to what? The first principle we mentioned. ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرُ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, that this is better for you, only if you were to know. You're the one who's benefiting. Why? Because this khutbah, which is fard for you to come and listen to. Now, is it a must you come to this lecture tonight? It's not fard. Huh? Is it beneficial? Inshallah. We come, we remind one another, we benefit. But we need at least one time a week. Your creator who created you, and the manual he sent to you, he told you that what? You need this time. You have to be here to listen to this advice at least once a week. Being reminded, because as a human being, it's our nature that we need to be reminded. وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ ذِكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And remind, because the reminder benefits the believers. So we need to be reminded. So those 20 minutes or 30 minutes that you are in some countries where the khatib talks for 45 minutes or an hour, which is not actually from the sunnah to speak that much, but alhamdulillah, that this time that you're there for that Jummah, for the khutbah, you need this. But what about after the salah? Look at Islam, subhanAllah, and look at the teaching of Islam. فَإِذَا قُضِيَتِ الصَّلَاةِ, if the salat has finished, what do you do? Allah says, فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ, then go out in the earth and do what? وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ, and seek the bounties of Allah. Go get paid. Go make your money. Now you can go make your money. Bismillah. But then what does Allah say again at the end of the ayah? وَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. But as you're out there getting paid, and you're striving to benefit from the dunya, remember Allah kathiran, abundantly, much. Perhaps that you will be successful. So the Muslim, here once again, we're balancing between the deen and between the dunya. SubhanAllah, look at the same meaning when we enter into the masjid and we leave the masjid. What is the dua that we make when we enter the masjid? Allahumma iftah li abwab rahmatik. Oh Allah, open the doors of your mercy. We're making dua for what here? Deen or dunya? For the deen. For the deen. The rahmah mostly here is mostly going to be from the deen. When we leave the masjid, what do we say? Allahumma inni as'aluka min fadlik. Oh Allah, I ask you for your bounties. And here the fadl, here we're talking mostly what? Money. Affairs of the dunya. Mostly talking about the affairs of the dunya. So once again, the balance. Coming in for deen, going out for dunya. And this is the teachings of Islam. When we look into the Sahaba, who truly understood Islam, because we always say the Quran and the Sunnah. Quran and Sunnah. But there's a third element always, if we want to be successful in all aspects of the deen. If you want to be successful, you can't just have the Quran and Sunnah, but it has to be on the understanding of who? The Sahaba radiallahu anhu. They're the ones who understood the Quran properly. They're the ones who took it directly from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They're the ones who truly understood his Sunnah. They're the ones who truly implemented Islam. Therefore, we always have to have what? Along with the Quran and Sunnah, the way of the Sahaba. And anyone who has gone astray, any different group, everyone says Quran and Sunnah. But the ones who truly follow the Quran and Sunnah, they follow on the understanding and the way of the Sahaba. So when it comes to this issue that we're talking about, this balance between the deen and the dunya, if you look at the Sahaba, from the Sahaba, were they all poor? Masakin? From them, who is rich from them? Well, who's the first one that comes to your mind? Uthman ibn Affan. Who else? Abdurrahman ibn Auf. Like these two individuals, what category do they fall into? They're in a special category in Islam of the Sahaba. Who are they? These two. Which category, which group do they fall into? Al-Ashr al-Mubashirin. The 10 who were given what? Glad tidings with paradise, with Jannah from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But yet, right away we think about them as the 10 who were promised Jannah, but also we know them as the big businessmen, the ones who had a lot of money from the Sahaba as well. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Was he a businessman? Businessman, had a lot of money. Umar al-Khattab also had his own business. All of them were into business, making their money. In fact, in Sahih al-Bukhari, Umar al-Khattab, he mentioned that he had a business partner from the Ansar. And they had in the Awali area, in Medina, they had their farm and what have you, and they would work together. But they also wanted to benefit from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Umar, he's the number 2 man in Islam after Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Everyone knows that. But still he had to create this balance because he has to make money, he has to live for himself and his family. Therefore he said what they would do is that one day Umar al-Khattab would sit with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his partner would work. And then Umar would come back and he would teach his partner. He said, this is what came down from the ayat today. This is what we learned from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam today. The next day, that Umar would work. And the Ansari, he would go down and he would learn from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and sit and see what happens. He said, today a wafd, a group, a delegation, they came from outside and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them this and this. He goes back and he tells Umar al-Khattab. But look at the balance between what? Deen and dunya. Deen and dunya. They're working together to create that balance. When it comes to making money, is there a limit of how much money we can make? We're allowed to make it as long as it's halal, bismillah, you can make as much money as you want. Abdurrahman ibn Auf, different narrations about how much money he left behind. Some of it is that he left 4 million for each one of his wives. He left how much? 4 million. How many wives did he have? 4. And here, alhamdulillah, none of them wanted to exchange him like the situation we have, alhamdulillah, because he was Abdurrahman ibn Auf, so he was okay. So now he had what? He had 4 wives. Each one of them had 4 million. How much is that all together? 16 million. That's just for the wives. And if you go back to the mirath, the inheritance, the wife, when you have children, she's going to get how much? An eighth. An eighth. That means that what he left behind altogether would be 128 million. From their money, not from the money we have today. That's like billions of what we have today, right? So he had a huge amount of money he left behind. But yet, he's from the 10 who were promised Jannah, or promised paradise. He's from those who were striving in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of that. He had the balance. He was making money. But don't forget the stories about how much sadaqah he gave. When his business would come into Medina, he said Medina would shake from all of the products he was bringing into Medina. And how much of the sadaqah he would give for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we know the stories. When you look at one of the things that people say, okay, that we would say we would want from this dunya, what is our main concern? If you knew, for example, now you went to the doctor, may Allah give us all health and long life upon good, Ya Rabbil Alameen. But if one of us was to go to the doctor right now, and they say, I'm sorry to tell you, sir, but, you have 3 months to live. The situation, stage 4, there's nothing we can do for you. Say 3 months, lucky if you have 4. What's our main concern going to be in these months that we have? Someone who's married, has a family, what's your main concern going to be? Your kids, their future. And that any parent is to the youngsters here, so in the status, why the parents have such a high status in Islam? Because they would be willing to give their own life for you. Their main concern, any parent, is the issue of their children. The issue of the future of their children. This is the main concern that they have. SubhanAllah. What does Islam teach us when it comes to this? When it comes to having money, to make sure that our family is well off after we die? Is this something that we should focus on doing as Muslims? Or we say, we'll give what we're having sadaqah and good luck to them. Alhamdulillah. Just as Allah provided for me, Allah provides them, it's not my problem. My problem is to give some sadaqah, mix in this, and whatever happens to them, happens to them. SubhanAllah, we know this from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how we should think, how we should look at this. And the Sunnah in Sahih Bukhari was narrated that, Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, that Sa'ad radiallahu an, Sa'ad ibn Abu Waqqas, when he was very, very ill. And a lot of times when you're very sick, you feel that what? This is it, khalas. Especially if you get very, very sick. So he figured that this was it, khalas. He was in his last days or last hours in his dunya. He decided that the money and the wealth that he had, because when you're sick, can you do ibadah? Can you get up and pray? There's not much ibadah you can do if you're really sick. He said, the only thing I have right now is the money I have. I can give all of it as sadaqah. And go out with a bang, right? You get as much ajr as you can before you die, giving all your money in sadaqah. Did the Prophet ﷺ allow him to do it? He forbid him from giving his money in sadaqah, all of it. So he kept trying, he said, let me give half. He said, no. So let me give a third, a thuluth. He gave him permission to give a third, a thuluth. And what did he say about the thuluth? Well, thuluth kathir. And this third, it's a lot. Meaning you should actually give less than a third. It's a lot, but you can give a thuluth. And then he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, إِنَّكَ أَن تَذَرَ وَرَثَتَكَ أَغْنِيَا خَيْرٌ مِنْ أَن تَذَرَهُمْ عَالَةً يَتَكَفَّفُونَ النَّاسِ. He said, for you to leave your inheritors behind you, wealthy, it's better than to leave them in poverty, having to beg from the people and ask for the people. So once again, one of the concerns we have in this dunya, where we want our family to be well off after us, it's from the teachings of Islam. SubhanAllah. Even recently, something amazing, I was looking at listening to one of these gurus or these life coaches, who is very famous in the days we live in, and that is Tony Robbins. And he mentioned, talking about how to obtain financial freedom. What is the first step to obtaining financial freedom? And what he said was very interesting. He said that if you want to be successful, you should always have some financial freedom. You should always have at least 6 months of savings in your account. Meaning, how much do you need to survive a month? Let's say, for example, you're middle class, with your rent, with your thing, you spend about £3,000 a month. That means in your account at all times, how much money should you have? 18,000. Some guys are good at math, some of us are a bit slow on that. But you got right of 18,000 at least. Huh? Why is this? It's because studies and research has proved that if you were to leave your job and to look for a new job until you find a new job, sometimes it takes up to how many months? Up to about 6 months. Therefore, once you have that 6 months always in your account, you have some stability and some cushion. So there, if you're trapped in a job that's not working, it's not going good for your career, and you say, I can get this other job, it's better, but it's going to take me some time, then I can leave this job and I can focus on getting, because I have a 6 month cushion. This is a teaching that we know from the life coaches of today. It's confirmed in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam something very similar, and that is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after the time of Khaybar, he was given the wealth that will come from Khaybar for himself and for his family. They said that he would take from that money, he would take 1 year of what his family needed for their expenses, and then he would take the rest and he would give it and doing things fi sabilillah in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would take how much? 1 year of their expenses. So how much does my family need to survive for an entire year? All of his different household, he would put that aside for his family. And then the rest of the money he had, he would give it fi sabilillah, the things they needed in the path of Allah. So here now we see that even Islam has more than these life coaches are saying today. He said 6 months, the Prophet said 1 year. So we're to follow the advice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or what he used to do. And how much do we have in our bank account at all times? 30. How much? 36. It's in the account all the time. But you have to pay 2.5% on each year. It's always what? In your account. Just as a backup plan. Make sure that you have that. So this also is one thing we say, that if anybody has a little bit of money, because one of the concerns that we have is that we have, just in case, you have that backup plan in your account. And that's also something that's permissible in Islam. My dear brothers and sisters, as we come to an end in tonight's lecture, we see that I believe that a lot of us, inshallah, maybe how we used to see things might have changed tonight. When it comes to creating the balance between the deen and the dunya, and being able to obtain the best of both worlds. Now I remember when I gave this as a khutbah, a shorter version of it, in Ireland, that I think it was the happiest I ever saw the brothers in the masjid. They were very happy about this khutbah. Huh? And I remember as they were leaving, they're in the back, they give me salams, brothers like this, they were very, very happy to hear about this. One brother came up to me and he said, Sheikh, he said, the best khutbah I've ever given, He said, I was inspired. He said, I was inspired. I went home and told my wife, and I finally did it. I said, what? He said, I bought my new car. He said, Bismillah. He said, I finally did it. I went and I bought my new car. He said, I went to my wife and she said, no, the Sheikh said, I said, we prayed in the khutbah. Before things happened, he said, I have you, baby. I have this house we have to wait, but he said, the car we can buy it, Bismillah. So he went, alhamdulillah, and he got the new car. With this, ya ikhwan, I want to end with something, and that is, what is important is that even if we have from the dunya, it's okay, it's halal. And it's halal for us to enjoy what Allah has blessed us with from the dunya without being, who said, extravagant. What happens when you become extravagant, ya ikhwan? This is the difference between somebody who is wealthy and somebody who lives good and someone who's extravagant. What happens when you become extravagant?
You get kibble.
Usually you get what? Kibble. You get pride and arrogance. It happens. Yeah, for example, now, if I have a car that is, it's nice, but it's not too nice, most likely I'm not going to be too proud. But if I pull up in a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, generally speaking, it's halal, but it's dangerous. That's a danger. Why? Because most likely what's going to happen when you drive a Ferrari or Lamborghini? Most likely what's going to happen? You're going to be arrogant, most likely. One brother I know, he's well off, but his cousin, mashallah, on another level. So he said, sometimes I drive his cars. And he said, when I drive it in the beginning, it's normal. But after I drive for like half of a day, he said, I automatically change. He said, in the beginning I'm driving, he said, I see you and I'll be like this, Assalamu alaikum, how you doing, brother? He said, at the end of the day, he said, I'm driving like this. And he said, it happens automatically because of the type of car that he's driving. He says, when it gets to you. So you have to be very, very careful and not being extravagant and creating a balance. And at the same time, even if we have the money and we're successful in our businesses, that we don't get what? Distracted. We don't let the dunya distract us. SubhanAllah, and what an amazing hadith of the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "Man kanat ad-dunya hammahu, farraqa Allahu alayhi amruhu." That whoever is focused on this world, Allah will confine his affairs in it. And then he said, وَجَعَلَ فَقْرَهُ بَيْنَ عَيْنَيْهِ, that he will make him feel the poverty consistently. Meaning that his concern now is just the dunya. He's not thinking about the hereafter. It's all about money, money, money. As some of them say, al-halal mal-hal fil yad. Halal is whatever you can get in your hand. Doesn't matter, halal, haram. I buy, I'll sell anything. As long as I'm getting money, I don't care. Interest loan, take it, no problem. Haram, just money, just give me money. So everyone is concerned, he will confine his affairs in it. Khalas. And so he will become so focused on it, but yet he'll always feel that he's poor. وَلَمْ يَأْتِي مِنَ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَا كُتِبَ لَهُ. And he won't get from the dunya except for what's been written for him. Even though he's striving and running for it, the only thing you're going to get from the dunya is what's in your qadr, what's been written down for you. It's not going to increase. But what's going to happen when a person is chasing the dunya and his only concern is the dunya, you'll find that he's never content. And being content is one of the greatest ni'mas that you can have, one of the greatest blessings. And pay attention to the end of the hadith. Look at the difference. He said, وَمَنْ كَانَتِ الْآخِرَةُ نِيَّتُهُ جَمْعَ اللَّهُ لَهُ أَمْرَهُ. That whoever the hereafter is his main concern, Allah will settle for his affairs for him in the dunya. وَجَعَلَ غِنَاهُ فِي قَلْبِهِ. And he will make him feel content in his heart, what he has from the dunya. وَآتَتُ الدُّنْيَا وَهِيَ رَاغِمَةٌ. And the dunya will come to him, undoubtedly it will come to him. Even if he doesn't want it, it comes to him, subhanAllah. Look at the difference between the two. He wasn't even focusing on the affairs of the dunya, but Allah opens up the doors for him. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. Allahu Akbar. That whoever fears Allah, His concern is the hereafter. His concern in what he does, halal, haram, I please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if apparently I'm going to lose money. My main concern is what? Pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What happens to this individual? Allah makes from a makhraj, a way out of all of his affairs. All of the problems you face in the dunya, Allah makes a way out. And it doesn't stop there. وَيَرْزُقُهُ. And He provides for him. But how does He provide for him? مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. From a way he never thought was possible. Allah opens up the doors for him. SubhanAllah. How many brothers do we know who were involved in businesses that was haram? A brother who has a restaurant. And if you have a restaurant, you have to do what? I want to be successful. I want the non-Muslims to come to enjoy themselves. I have to sell a little wine, The rest, it's halal meat. It's zabiha meat. Bismillah, I'm selling, But a little wine on the side, just astaghfirullah, what can I do? I'm in this area, I need to make money, this. So shaitan fools him. Another brother comes and says, you know what, I'm not going to sell. He says that it seems that I'm making less money. But sometimes it happens that when he gets more customers, he actually makes more money. Or even if the money coming in is less, we know brothers who have told us they found more barakah and more blessings in their money. So you get either one of the two. Sometimes Allah increases in your sales and blesses the business, we actually make more money. And other times, what? Even if you see the income coming in is less, but there's barakah and blessings. You know what I mean? That the first individual, he'll never be content. He always, he feels that he needs more, and he always feels he's losing money. And how many examples have we seen of the people who are dealing in haram money that it never lasts? There's no barakah, no blessings in it, and they're always struggling. Where someone has maybe a third of what they're making, but all puts barakah and blessings. Sometimes even when you go to their houses, you're like, mashallah. You don't know how the person who has that much money, but it's a nice house. It's set up very nice. It's the order of things he has. It looks very nice. The person who's making 4 or 5 times more than him, he looks like he's a miskin sometimes because he doesn't have money. Well, we've seen it time and time again. So that's why we need to make our main concern the hereafter and not be distracted. But alhamdulillah, if Allah blesses with a little bit of money, we learned tonight that we can have this balance and we can benefit, inshallah ta'ala, from enjoying these things in life and have fun, alhamdulillah. Many times people think that it's not permissible. Yeah, have fun, astaghfirullah. Always we do. I don't know what you guys have in Newcastle. I'll probably teach you some crazy things that open up the door. I don't know if I should do it now, because what happens usually when you get to about 40, they say what? You go through what? Midlife crisis. You don't want to admit it. It happens. Yeah? I think I got through mine, so I don't want anybody to take me back doing crazy things now. Alhamdulillah. But I remember when I got I was getting to about 40. I decided I wanted to do a lot of crazy things for some reason. So I think naturally it happens. And when I went to South Africa, they said, there was all drus every day. I said, okay, no problem, but give me one day just to have fun. So they gave me several options. They said, we can do this and several different things. You can do 2 things or 4 things they gave me. One of them was we can go into Zimbabwe on the border. We can go do some buffalo hunting. That sounds interesting. I'm not really hunting. I hunted before I was a Muslim. I went squirrel hunting, so not really in America, not big game, huh? They said the only problem here is that if you don't get a good shot, you don't take him down with one shot, he's going to take you down. So that's a 50-50. And I'm not a hunter, so I probably won't get a good shot. So I said, and it doesn't sound too good. I said, what else can you do? They said, you can do the big jump. So we'll go for a safari in the afternoon, which is beautiful, mashallah. They said, you can do the big jump. I said, what is the big jump? They said that it's actually in the Guinness Book of World Record, if you go look at it. It's the biggest swing in the world. So after the World Cup they want to do things to benefit from these stadiums. So somebody came up with a great idea, which was to put this big swing in the middle of the stadium in Durban, where you walk up, it's 352 steps, and you feel all of them, especially if you're in good shape like us, when you get to the top. And then you stand on a ledge, which is very thin, and it's probably a little short, more narrow than this. And you have this big rope attached to you, and you jump off. It's 108 meters from the ground. Then the jump itself is 88 meters, 60 meters free fall, and then you start to swing the other 28, and you stop 18 meters above the football pitch. So this is something, it's a big rush and the big jump is what they call it. So Bismillah, they said, do you want to go for this? Obviously, going through this midlife crisis that I didn't think I would go through, I thought it was just hearsay. I said, Bismillah, let's do it, man. Allahu Akbar, let's do it, So I get to the top, and there was a brother who studied with me the course, the 9 Names of Allah. He went with me as well. So we go to the top, and then I was thinking, because the other option I had was to go to the beach. And now I'm looking over at the beach from the ledge. And I was like, I could have been there actually, walking on the beautiful beach, and a very beautiful beach there, mashallah. I said, that would have been probably the better choice to do. I stood on the edge. I'm not going to lie, I was scared. I stepped back a few times. I didn't do it. And he said to me, the guy said, you're American. I said, say Geronimo and go. I said, I'm American, but I'm Muslim. I want to say Bismillah just in case the thing breaks, you know. And I was hoping that they had a weight limit, you know. So if you want to do skydiving, there's a weight limit. What's the weight limit? Huh? Who knows the weight limit of skydiving? No. 100 kgs. So I comfortably stay a few kgs above skydiving, so I can't actually do it. Above the 100 limit, that. So here I said, okay, I said maybe I'm 100 and some change, so maybe they have the same weight limit for this. They said, no, up to 130 you're fine, don't worry. I said, not even close there, bismillah. So I'm up there, I had this thing attached to me, and I didn't think I would do it. Eventually I stepped off the edge. It was the worst feeling you can imagine for the first few seconds. I said, that was beautiful, obviously, when you start to fly through the air. But it was something that I did. Why do I mention this story? That it's permissible to have fun and to enjoy things. I'm on a dawah trip. Alhamdulillah, I'm giving lectures. I gave 2 courses. The brothers offered me something fun to do. So astaghfirullah. Haram, brothers. You know? Alhamdulillah, it's halal. Especially because the rope hasn't broke yet. You know, so most likely you're going to come back alive. Huh? If you don't have a heart attack on the way down, that is. Huh? So most likely you're going to live. Alhamdulillah. It's halal way to have fun. Wasn't too expensive. There's a lot of things, alhamdulillah, that you can do. You can enjoy life. And I always give the example. Actually, first time I gave this lecture, I brought the video with me. I was in university with the students. I showed them the video, and I had another video where I was with Mufti Ming and Sheikh Muhammad Salah. It was actually Mufti Ming, by the way, to encourage us to do it. There's something in Singapore called the slingshot. And that's another thing. They said that it throws you like 100 meters in the air, and you're on this, like, it's like a little swing, and then it shoots you in the air, like with hydraulics, and you fly in the air. And it's, you know, once again, the first few seconds is not. I asked the guy, he said, do I hold on to something? He said, no, only the women hold on. No, trust me, everyone holds on. Because as soon as I went up, I was trying to hold on to anything I could, you know. Alhamdulillah, once again, we're on a dawah tour there. The brothers took us to this place, you know, and the people were looking at us, we have our thobes on and all this, and people were taking pictures and this. But we were able to have fun, alhamdulillah, go and to enjoy these things in life. It's allowed, alhamdulillah. But at the same time, we're giving da'wah, reminding ourselves, we're preparing for the hereafter, we're focusing on our prayer. All of these things we need to do, inshallah ta'ala, to be able to enjoy and have the best of both worlds. It is possible, ya ikhwan. They say you can't have your cake and eat it too. We say that's true unless you're a Muslim. Say Muslim, alhamdulillah, you can have your cake and you can eat it too, and you can benefit and enjoy the best of both worlds, inshallah ta'ala. Wallahu a'lam wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka nabi Muhammad. If there's any questions, inshallah ta'ala, we can maybe have a bit of Q&A. Is that the program? Or? Bismillah. If the sisters have questions, what is the...
They will send you.
They'll send it written down, because that's the program. But don't ask about exchanging husbands and things like that. Don't get me involved.
Can I start?
Listen.
Yeah. Brother, Jazakallah khair for coming here. It was a very enjoyable lecture. You know, we can ask you questions all night if you have time. There's few things, for example, regarding buying the house. You know, a lot of people don't have, you know, the full amount of money. They go to mortgage, and there's a lot of opinions about it, and those 2 opinions who make it halal. They say it is riba, but it is halal for darura, and the other ones they say it is halal because it is wikala. So what's your advice about this?
And the brother's asking a question which comes quite frequently about, which is buying the house or the mortgage, with the mortgage, which is an interest loan. And there's different fatwas out there. And from the famous fatwas is that it's permissible, that it is riba, but it's permissible due to darura. And it's permissible only for the first house. And in fatwa, it's very interesting when you talk to these individuals who gave this fatwa from different mashayikh, that the issue of darura, what is usually considered darura? I asked one of them one time, darura is it's life or death basically, right? It's a bit like that. When you are about to die, and you're in the middle of nowhere, and the only thing in front of you is a pig, is it permissible if you eat it or not? You eat it. You eat the whole thing? No. You eat enough just to point A to point B. The scholar said if you think you're not going to find this, wrap some with you in a bag and you take it with you or something. If you're about to die again, then you go and you have some more. Okay, you don't eat the whole thing and you walk out and like, you know, like it was biryani or something like that, you know, bismillah. No, it doesn't work like that. So this is what we call durura. Here, I want to look at them because they say obviously to leave your family all better off and make sure that they're safe, they have a house if you were to die. That's one aspect. Also, they talk about that, you know, they were always renting, we're always giving money, but we're not owning anything. That's a problem. That is a problem. We agree with that. But really, durura. If one of us were to die now, what happens to our family here in Europe? Okay, you were paying the rent, you were paying everything. What's going to happen to them? Are they going to be able to survive or not? Yeah, the state can take care of them in almost every European country. Where they're going to give them money for rent, they're going to give money for this and that, especially if you have kids, you have this. So usually they're going to be okay. So the issue of durura here from this aspect, it's not really happening. From the other side, the fact that we're spending money and we're not owning things, this is a problem. So what should we do in order to solve this problem? We need to come up with halal alternatives. Halal Islamic banking or halal investors who will be willing to invest. We're willing to invest in order to have a halal alternative to buying that house. What's happened is, when we open up the door to go to the interest banks and to buy our houses, we're making the market for these investors very small. You see what I'm saying? Therefore, we're not finding alternatives. So what we need to do, yes, it's a problem. That as Muslims, we should try to own as much as we can. We should buy, and instead of always just renting and buying and letting someone else benefit, we should try ourselves. But that doesn't mean that it's acceptable for us to go and to get into a haram mortgage, interest mortgage. So the correct view is that this is haram and it's not permissible. We need to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when it comes to these type of mortgages, even though all of us, it's our dream to have our house. Even myself now, I don't have a lot of money. I look at the rent I'm paying each month and it kills me. I said, there's I could, a little bit more of this, I could have a mortgage for myself. But I said, don't want to do something that's going to cause me problems when it comes to dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by doing that which is haram. Wala ya ikhwan, I've done counseling to numerous brothers who took this fatwa and they found inside that it used to eat them up. When they realized what they'd done was haram. And they knew, most of them said, we knew we shouldn't have done it. We found this fatwa, it was nice fatwa, and he could say, put it on the sheikh, it's his problem. But after what? After they actually bought it, and they used to eat them up inside. Some of them came to me, they would always cry. They said, I feel so bad, the fact that I purchased all of this on interest alone. And we know the dangers of interest. We look at the Quran, so something major, it's a major sin. Even like we talked about today in the khutbah, if you remember the example we gave, interest is even worse than this. It came in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How about that? So this is the thing, talking about the first thing with the mother, not about the second thing, but the way shirk. If you remember what I talked about in the khutbah, if you were here today, remember what I was talking about. So this shows you the danger of interest. Therefore, what we need to do, we need to be proactive as Muslims and find halal alternatives. Alhamdulillah. And the Islamic banking system in the Muslim countries, they found alternatives. So also we can find them here as well. Now the next question will come about the different Islamic banks here. Is their mortgage halal? This I don't know, because I haven't studied in the UK. I don't know what is available. We'd have to ask some of the other scholars here on the ground who have studied them, because I personally don't know, and Allah knows best.
Can I ask another question? Regarding, which is related to the topic, you know, we are allowed to buy houses, give the money and everything. But when you look at the examples of Sayyidina Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he was one of the richest persons. He used to wear silk, and when he became Khalifa, he zahad fi dunya. He just left everything and used to wear, poor quality clothes and so on. So why is it, and should we follow him?
Okay. The brother's asking about Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, and he used to wear finer clothes. He didn't wear silk.
Yeah, he didn't wear silk.
Silk is haram. He used to wear fine clothes and nice clothes. And then when he became the Khalifa, he left this, and this was something that he did. Even Umar al-Khattab, he said he had one thobe. He said he had several patches on it. And it was said to some of his family, give him another thobe. He said, wallah, he doesn't have another thobe. Is it permissible for him to have a couple of thobes, have nice thobes? No problem. Islamic, there's nothing wrong with that. And Bayt al-Mal would provide for him from his, from the money that he would have these things. Even, for example, if you look in different, like we have in the Western governments here, that from the things, the ruler might not get a huge salary, but all of these things, his suit and all of this, well, that's all covered. So these type of things, also Islamic, there's nothing wrong with that. But this is something he chose to do, a type of zuhud, a type of wara that he had in order, he didn't want to make sure that he didn't misspend any type of money. For example, we have one of our sheikhs who taught us in Medina, Sheikh Abdur-RAHEEM McCARTHY, that when he was, after the time of Sheikh Mbaz, when he became the head of the university, the mudir, or the president of the university, the head of the university, he said he would go around to the colleges himself and make sure that all of the lights are turned off. Why? Because he said he didn't want to be asked about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about electricity that was spent when he was the one who was in charge. Did he have to do this? Is it in his job description? Is it part of being the head of the... It's not his job. They have a worker who should be doing that. That was something because he didn't want to be asked about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he took his work, took it to another level. So this is something now, and certain people like Umar ibn Abdul-Aziz did. Umar ibn Khattab did something similar as well. But it's not something that you have to do. So it depends on yourself. If you feel that this is for me, and it's better for me not to be distracted. The Prophet ﷺ in the hadith, when he was sleeping on the hasir alayhi salatu wasalam. You know the hasir, which is it's like a little wooden mat, the piece of little wood, like it looks like bamboo sticks if you've seen it, like put together. And he's sleeping on this wooden mat. So much so that it will leave an indent or marks on his arm when he wake up alayhi salatu wasalam. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, when he saw this, it hurt him to see that the Prophet, our qudwa, our role model, our leader, and we're sleeping on nice beds and he's sleeping on something like this. So he said, we'll buy you a nice bed. It was very easy for any of the Sahaba to come and give me, we'll bring you a nice bed, Ya Rasul. He said, I don't need it. He chose that because he didn't want to be distracted. That was something he wanted to sleep like that. But he could have had a nice bed if he wanted to, alayhi salatu wasalam. So that, a lot of times, Ya Ikhwan, it goes back to you as an individual. What makes you feel more comfortable. Like for example, some people when they're buying a car, say I want to buy mid-range car, something that's nicer, more reliable, something that's stable for myself, for my family. Somebody else says, I feel that it might distract me. So instead of that, I'm going to get something a little bit less. So it's up to you, and I think it's very important. Each person knows himself. All of us know ourselves, and if we feel something, we're going to be distracted. I remember one of the sheikhs, he told me. We're traveling. I usually don't travel business class, but the brother sent me to take a business class, so I accepted it, alhamdulillah. And I think it was one of the first times. It wasn't a few times, but not too many. So anyways, we're in the business class, and we're supposed to, as we come from the Middle Eastern country, we have our own line. And as we're coming back from this country, we had to get put in the regular line. So I said to him, where's our line? Why don't we have a line? He said, no, let's wait in line with people. He said, it's good for us, he told me. And he said, it's good for our tarbiyah. Because he said, what happens is sometimes you see yourself, and I said, okay, well, it's so true, because indirectly, right away, you're like, the economy guys. And I'm usually one of them myself, right? But for this time, because you're business class today, you kind of see yourself, I have my own line, and this. Indirectly, you don't think about it. And he told me a story. He said, something happened to me. He said, my goal was, he was living in America at the time. He said, my goal was to buy a new Lexus. He said, I love the Lexus. And he said, alhamdulillah, I was making good money. I saved, didn't get an interest loan. He said, I saved, and I went and bought the brand new Lexus. And I think he had just got married, his wife came over and stuff like this, and new Lexus. And he said, I loved it, alhamdulillah. He said that I came, and I was in the bank doing some work one time, and then I put the key out in my hand, and I put it up on the counter, and to show that he's working that, I'm driving a Lexus. I'm a Lexus owner, He said, I put it up there, you see the L. And he said, I felt very proud when I put it up on the table. So he said, this is a problem for me, and now for my deen. So what did he do? He said, I went and sold the Lexus. I mean, sold it because I knew it was going to distract me. So he said, I thought I could have the balance. It wouldn't affect me. I wouldn't be able to have that balance, and it wouldn't affect me. But he said, as soon as I saw it affect me like that, he said, I sold it. Another person might throw the key but not think anything about it. It might be normal for him. So it depends on the person, who you are. If you see it distracts you, you have an example of this, you have an example of other ones who live nice and this, and so it depends. Yes, brother.
What was the Muslim stance regarding criticizing the leaders, the rulers of the Muslim countries? For example, you've got the Gulf crisis at the moment, and we get a lot of, especially on social media, criticizing whether it's the Saudi government or the Qatari or whoever. So obviously, I don't know what the Muslim stance should be on this situation.
In general, the Muslim, obviously, in any stance like this, any crisis, the Muslim always stands for the haqq. But many times, when it comes to these issues, which don't really directly affect us especially, I think it's better that we don't get involved. And it's not always that you have to have a certain stance or a certain thing that you say. You don't support falsehood, you don't support oppression as a Muslim, no doubt about that. But at the same time, sometimes getting involved, it doesn't really have much benefit. In fact, it can have harms for you. And then, like for example, as some of the sheikhs said in this crisis, that we speak against this or we speak for the other side, and what happens later, that those people then come and they make up and they solve the problems that they have, and then they look at the people who talked as the bad guys. And the people who started the whole feud and the whole problem, they're fine now. There's no problem with what they have with each other. But the people who are talking on social media and saying this and that, now they're labeled as this or that. And they have problems with the other group. So sometimes it's better for a Muslim just not to get involved, but at the same time, like we said, we don't support something that's wrong or something that's oppression. We stand against this as Muslims, and Allah knows best.
Sheikh, Jazakallah khair. Just to go back to the
Are you going to get a new car tonight?
Yeah. Something based on that.
Alhamdulillah. You feel it.
Insurance. But as far as motor insurance is concerned, we don't have any choice. But as far as life insurance or health insurance is concerned, we do have a choice.
Yes.
But just to have more security to the family, so life insurance, is it something?
Okay. The brother's asking now when it comes to like insurance. Car insurance, you have no choice. And that goes back to, once again, the rules we talked about in the beginning, the principle. You have no choice. You can't decide that it's haram insurance in Islam, so I'm going to drive my car without insurance. And if the police pull me over, they have a fatwa from Sheikh Abdul-RAHEEM. Car insurance is haram, therefore I'm driving without insurance. Obviously, this is something we can't do in the country, and we have no choice. Even now, Muslim countries, it's become the same thing. We have no choice but to have car insurance. What about other types of insurance, like life insurance and what have you? No, these types of insurance are haram. It's not permissible to do these because they're not out of necessity. This one, the first one falls in necessity where you can't do it. The other one, you chose to do it. Okay? So this is something that, there could be different cases. For example, when it comes to the MASJID, do you put insurance on the masjid or not? This, I think, because the issue also goes back to the law of the country, where some places you have to have insurance. And if something happens in the masjid, the masjid has to be insured. That could be a different story where you would also fall into necessity of having it. Even like where masajid are attacked and things like this and burnt down in some places, you would be able to benefit from having that. So inshallah, and that would be permissible. For yourself, life insurance and what have you, this is not permissible. The health insurance, we have free health insurance here, so you don't need also to have health insurance as well. Unless if you live in a country which is oppressive, like my country, and you have no choice, or you don't have health insurance, where you die. And people don't realize the ni'mah, the blessing you guys have, subhanAllah. I came here as a visitor one time, I was sick. I went to the hospital and just had my passport with me. And I got the fuel, they gave me the antibiotics, they gave me everything that I needed, all for free. And in my own country, if I didn't have insurance, and I was sick, they leave you to die, subhanAllah. So it's a blessing that you guys have, that you have the health insurance, alhamdulillah. Any other questions, brothers? Okay, I'll read from this one now. Here it says, inshallah ta'ala. I would like advice for the brothers that Muslim faithful women are better than non-faithful ones. Even if men admire them, they admire their beauty. And then she mentioned the ayah that about the amma, or the servant who is the believer, is better than the mushrika, وَلَوْ عَجَبَتْهُمْ, even if you're impressed by her, by her beauty, obviously, as she mentioned. أُولَٰئِكَ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى النَّارِ وَاللَّهُ يَدْعُو إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ وَالْمَغْفِرَةِ بِإِذْنِهِ. That these people are calling to the hellfire, and Allah is calling to the Jannah and to His forgiveness, to His permission. As is a big problem in this community. Obviously, when it comes to being or getting married, there are certain things that we should look into, certain things that criteria that we should look for. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned 4 things in the hadith. What are the 4? The deen, her beauty, money. Not the only one, she's got money too, huh? It works both ways, huh? And her family. She's from a good family, good lineage, and what have you. And also, and then he said at the end, to focus on the one who has the deen. That's going to be the best for you. Focus on the deen. And the other hadith, the Prophet said, if somebody comes and wants to marry your daughter, and he has two things, then marry him. What are they? The deen and the khuluq. Good manners and good deen. All of these things we start focusing on the criteria. But also there's another hadith where he told us if we want to get married, فَانْظُرْ إِلَى مَا يَدْعُوكِ إِلَى نِكَاحِهَا. Look at that what calls you to marry. Look at how she looks. So the looks are important, but they're not the most important thing. Pay attention to that, ikhwan. So here, if you have someone who has deen, okay, pay attention, that doesn't mean she has to be ugly. Because some people say, they try to use it, they say, "Akhi, she's ugly, but she has deen. So bismillah, I have to marry her." Because also, the Prophet mentioned in another hadith, that the best of women, إِذَا نَظَرْتِ إِلَيْهَا تَسُرُّهُ وَإِذَا نَظَرَتْ إِلَيْهِ تَسُرُّهَا or يُسُرُّهَا. That the best of the spouses, when he looks at her, she makes him happy. And when she looks at him, she makes him happy. So that's part of the look, is the physical look. Obviously the religion has something to do with that as well, or the manners have something to do with that as well. But when somebody, so there has to be some, and like I said, she doesn't have to be a supermodel, but it has to be something, and each person will lie is different. And he said beauty is in the eyes of what? That's true. You might go to, for example, now a brother sees a sister, it's like, she's not suitable for me. Maybe I go and say, bismillah, I think she's perfect, she's good for me. And she has good deen, so bismillah, I'm going to go for it. But the key thing is that we're not distracted by the beauty, and you go and you marry someone who is calling to the hellfire with their actions and what they're doing. And how many people have been in horrible marriages because they focused on this? The key thing was the issue of the beauty, or they went after the money, and the person didn't have good manners or good deen, and they were living in a horrible marriage, a horrible situation. And therefore, and it's important, once again, as we talk about this issue, it's always about the balance. That there's a balance where the key thing we know is the deen. The key thing is the manners. And if they look decent to us, they're attractive to us. That's the key thing, is that, inshallah, that's what we go for, inshallah ta'ala. We leave, no deen, no manners, but she's beautiful. Say, inshallah, she'll change with that. And maybe you'll be the one that will change. Or she'll never change and you'll live in misery. Because after the first couple of months, it's not about the beauty anymore, is it? It's about the manners, it's about the deen, it's about all of these things. That's the big difference. One of the brothers, very close friend of mine, he grew up here in the UK, originally from Sudan, decided to go back home and live, back home. And he said it was better for him in his deen. And he went back and he found a sister who wasn't practicing, and he was practicing. So I pulled him aside and I said, brother, don't marry her. She had a lot of good qualities. I said, don't marry her. I said, it's going to be miserable for you. I said, trust me, I have experience. I took in some of the scholars who he respects. Don't marry her. Wouldn't listen to us. Some people learn the hard way, right? That's the only way they can learn. Anyways, he married her and it was misery. First of all, when they went out on their honeymoon, they traveled to Malaysia. He looked, he said, what is this you're wearing? Tight clothes, full makeup, full perfume. So it's haram, you can't go to the house like this. She said, you can't tell me what to do. I'm free. I do what I want to do. My dad let me dress like this. You ain't going to tell me how to dress. So that was from the honeymoon right there. Obviously, the honeymoon, they enjoyed what they enjoyed, but after that, I can't let my wife be walking around like this. Within a month, he already divorced her. And he paid a lot of money for her, man. So you could have invested in business out there with all that money you paid for, I told him, don't do it. Alhamdulillah, later, he went to a sister. Also, he had alhamdulillah, but she was serious about her deen. Yeah, mashallah, tabarakallah, happily married. I just had their 4th kid, mashallah. And they're living the life. Beautiful life, beautiful house, everything is happy and peaceful, alhamdulillah. Because he took the advice. And she was there before, actually. And he had saw her, I said, hey, this is the one you need to go for, trust me. He didn't listen. Alhamdulillah, he learned the hard way. And lost a lot of money in the process. One last question, inshallah?
Yeah,
one last question.
This is a follow-up of the mortgage question. What's the situation on student loan?
From what I've looked into it, is it's not permissible. I know some of the sheikhs have said it's permissible and they've given fatwa here. I personally believe it's not permissible to take the student loan. And you have to fear Allah as much as you can. Do what you can do, work, pay it off, save money from the beginning. As a parent, you save money for your kids. And I believe that some other officials, government parties, are trying to do away with that law. I believe we have to pay for it. So vote for them, inshallah, the next coming election, inshallah ta'ala. So we can do away with the student loans, inshallah.
One last thing. Just you made it clear that الأصل في البيع الحل إلا الربا والأصل في الأكل الحل إلا ما حرم. What about the أصل in marriage? Is it the أصل in marriage is التعدد أم الأصل في marriage is single woman?
It depends if you live in the UK or outside of the UK.
Is your wife upstairs?
See that? See, we always have one of the brothers a troublemaker. His wife's not here tonight. And he has if his wife was here, he wouldn't ask that question. So he throws it out there in front of me, in front of the camera, and you guys in the back, so you guys have to hear him come home. So I say it depends, obviously, the law that you live in, inshallah. And the scholars are different when it comes to the asl of this. What is the asl? Some say the asl is, as it clear in ayah 2, 3, and 4. Some say no, the asl is one, and then the other is the exception to the rule. And Sheikh Ibn Baz, he believes that the asl is mathna wa thulatha wa ruba. And Allah knows best, alhamdulillah. But except in the UK, alhamdulillah, because we follow the laws and we obey the laws of the land, inshallah. Barakallah.